Hi, good evening. Wherever you're coming from to us tonight, I want to say a good night to you. Never in my wildest dream would I have believed if somebody had told me that Freddie's hairstyle, his tie, and his plaid short would have garnered so much attention as of Monday when we had our little show here. And tonight we want to be belling some cats. So Freddie, just to tell you that I think on behalf of all the people, we're going to be donating some shirts to you. Just to change things up because that's what we do here. We're going to be belling some cats, very serious times, and we want to
You
talk
can get yourself
about.
some shirts too.
You want to get me some shirts?
No, I don't
We're
have
going to
that.
have to do
I don't
something
have
for
that kind
Freddie
of money.
tonight.
No.
Okay, you don't have to have money, Freddie.
If I was working for the PBP and they were paying me, I would have bought some shirts for you.
Okay, well, we have to do something with the plaid. The plaid, it doesn't really work well with the camera, but that's Freddie Kisoon for you,
It
always
can
with
work.
his
It can
own.
work. You speak for the camera.
Yes, I'm talking to the people right now. So thank you very much. Freddie is always interrupts, and that's a good thing. He has his own style. You have been with us on Monday, and we have decided to shake things up. We're going to bell some cats today. Um, Doctor's license, driver's license, degrees, fake manufacturer's certificate. We could recall a few days back, GNBS would have destroyed loads of electrical equipment. We would have had issues of on the invoicing, online schooling, and of course, offshore schooling. What does this all have in common, and why should you be concerned as a people of Guyana? Freddie, our regulators are who set the standards in Guyana, who are supposed to be policing what is happening in Guyana, and we are going to be paying attention over the next couple of weeks as we come down. Government could unroll, and they could have many laws that they're putting into place, and we do have those laws. If you don't have people policing them, enforcing them, you're going to be in deep trouble. And so, how does one man walk into a situation where reportedly he went to a number of organizations, again, a cancer society, and I understand that reportedly, allegedly, he walked in to a hospital and worked there for some time, probably allegedly injecting people. How do you do that? Where's the Guyana Medical Council? It speaks to the regulatory bodies in Guyana. Freddie, the president have spoken about Guyana becoming a Dubai. How do you become a Dubai without enforcing the laws?
Well, let me say I see you rattle off a number of issues. I don't necessarily see those as crucial and having formidable consequences of other issues that are on my mind. And therefore, I think you have the latitude and it's your right to put interpretations to those issues. For me, there are other issues that are essentially heartbreaking for a nation, and the prolongation of the lives of these issues should worry everyone. For example, I mean, you talk about fake products, this, that. Those are ephemeral maladies that could be curtailed. But there are issues that are hit at the heart of humanity in this country. And if I had a list like yours, Dale, it would not be, those topics would not be in my list. For example, there are issues in this country where poor people, let me cut myself and interrupt by saying, I have always seen my role as standing up for the small man and woman, low income people, the general masses that are not privileged and that are poor and powerless. And I see things happening to those people that don't gel with the list you have enumerated there. And that's what I want to talk about. Of course, you have your jurisdiction, your latitude to talk about fake products. They are important. But there are things to my mind that get publicity and things that don't get publicity, and the ones that don't get publicity are the ones that are on my mind. You know, there's so many groups in this country, and you see them picketing the office of the president. They so much issues have, so much voices and pens have been devoted to the National Resource Fund. But you don't see those same people talking about what the banks are doing to poor depositors. That has been going on for 20 years. The government analyst is going to run into this fake manufacturer, and it's in the news, and I don't want to prolong any discussion on that. There are things that are more important to me. Every day, people complain about what the banks are doing. And when you examine this thing and analyze it, it's not big businessmen, it's not ministers, it's not wealthy people that are feeling the squeeze from the banks. Ordinary people. There are things like that. Look, Leonard, this program was aired on Monday, and I got so many emails about people telling me about things that are heartbreaking. And those are the things I want to talk about. I've been writing about the banks so often that today I got a complaint by a high official of the High Court who told me what his son went through with the bank. You know, I could tell you what went
Freddie,
through.
let me tell you what I'm
So
asking.
you,
I understand what you're
so
saying.
you know, you deal
Right.
with your issues.
Right.
I don't have to deal with that.
No, I understand that. But I
That's
think
your
the point
concern.
was what I
That's your
wanted you,
concern.
what I really wanted to get from you, because I'm seeing that if we're talking about the quality of life in Guyana, and this is where the point I want to get exactly, ladies and gentlemen. If you're talking about the quality of life in Guyana, if you're talking about having a Dubai kind of life, it's talking about a high life. You're talking about policing that works. You're talking about the court that works. You're talking about everything that works at the border immigration. I have so many. Fred is receiving every single day, I'm sure, through his emails and calls that people are concerned about various things. I also do keep abreast on what is happening on social media. And Freddie, let me tell you this: every single day, whether it's on Facebook or receiving calls, I tell you things that are happening at the airport. People come into the country, they see immigration officers very lackadaisical, the way they treat you, the way that things are happening at the police station. This morning, you know why I raise these issues here? This morning, something happened through my street. And normally, I have my cup of coffee and I just get ready for the day. Loud noise. I ran outside because I thought somebody got into an accident. Truck coming through the street, dragged down all the telephone wires. You know the reason why they drag it down? Because here it is a high truck that has a big equipment on it and they don't really care. Nobody's looking at it. Freddie, our regulatory system is not working, and that's why if you're going to talk, and the reason I raise those issues, because if we're talking about making this country strong at the borders, at the level of the police, at the level of the Public Procurement Commission, at the level of the Parliamentary Accounts Committee, you got to start getting their act together. Because if you look at the countries, I was looking at one of the series recently, and the people, there's so much pride in going after criminals when you get ahead, as they call it. If you get an arrest and you take them to court and you get that conviction, there's so much pride that you have in that, Freddie. And that's where we have to. Right about now, we have people starting to work with you. We have people bringing in things into the country that does not even reach the requisite standards, and we saying, they're doing the business. If I can't afford that, I'm going to afford that. And that is what I really wanted. I know there are more important things. However, when it comes to things, if you're going to start, where do you start from? And let's go. Go ahead.
Well, I start from the protection, and I've always started from that. I've started from the protection of people in general in a more substantial way. Many of the issues on the 3 nights that we're here that will come up are episodic issues. A man goes into the hospital, he poses as a doctor, he takes money from people, and you expose it, and he's arrested, and another one like that will come up in another 10 years. But there are things going on in this country that you don't see. The Guyana Human Rights Association, you don't see the Starbucks Juice. How many editorials? There hasn't been one of the misapplication of the Money Laundering Act by the banks. You know how many people daily, you talk about a man bringing in fake products or somebody being a fake doctor. You know how many people on a daily basis are harassed by the commercial banks? You know how many people on a daily basis have a problem with getting a transfer for their kid at the school? Now those are my people. Now I don't see Article 13 picketing the banks. I don't see.
What about the NIS?
I don't see the Article 13, Guyana human rights were tread. They've never picketed the banks. They don't care about that. You know what they want, Renald Gildarie? They want, when they go out in the street with a placard, they must make sure the topics bring them publicity. And I am not going to share this platform I'm on with them. I don't care what the human rights say. I don't care what Article 13 say. That is their right. But I have my domain. I have my terrain that I operate on. And it's what happens to poor people. What happens to people who go to the police station, they bail their brother, they bail their husband, and they have encounter immense hurdles to get back that bail money. Let me tell you something about the banks that I've been investigating. This is what I want to talk about. You're free to talk about. Do you know, and I want viewers out there to listen to the sum I'm going to call. I did the research. Do you know there are hundreds of millions of dollars in the commercial banks in this country, owned by thousands of Guyanese who left this country 15, 20, 25 years ago and cannot get that money? Because when they write the bank or they come here, the bank put a series of criteria on them that impossible to meet. Now, a person's bank book, a person's bank account goes dormant. And that person say, I'm in New York, I was away 10 years, I'm living in New York, I just want to make sure that the account becomes active again. You know what those people have to get? They work in Alaska, they retire, they live in Wisconsin. They got to go to Alaska and get a statement from the employer say, yes, you are a retiree. That kind of atrocities go on at the commercial bank. You know how, and you don't see Article 13, and you don't see these civil society group ever holding a picket outside the commercial bank. You know why? That doesn't bring them publicity, and the banking sector is a middle class organization, and we're not touching them. But if we jump on the bandwagon and say, down with Sue and Moo and Who, down with Vice and Mice and Rice, it brings them publicity. And I said here the last time, I think the Vice thing is important. What Mr. Sue said is important. But there's been a deluge of comments on that, and I welcome that. But I want the same people that are preoccupied with Sue and Moo and Who and Mice and Vice and Rice. I want to see them be preoccupied with what the banks are doing. I want to see them talk about bail. I want to see them talk about the unbelievable discrepancy in sentencing. A man raped a woman and got a life sentence. Another man raped a Venezuelan refugee, brutalized her, and he got 10 years. I want to see the people that talk about Vice and Mice and Sice. I want to see them talk about that. And you know what's my role here? My role here is to expose the hypocrisy.
Thank you very much for that, Freddie. And along the same thing, it's interesting because I was looking at one of the papers today and I see Jack Dio backs calls for Vice claims probe. And it's interesting because it takes a lot of cojones to basically say, bring it on, although you might be under the microscope. Is it because he's not afraid? How do you read into that? Jack Dio says...
Well, I think that's
what he's saying.
Well, how the question of fear comes in. They have been a program, and the program says that certain types of investors, I don't want to say Chinese, I think all investors are not wholly, the people that come to invest in your country should welcome them, but There are corrupt businessmen all over the world. Look what happened with FIFA. Look what happened in investigation of how Qatar got the World Cup. You do an audit on the American spending in Afghanistan, and the corruption is very high. So I don't want to center on Chinese corruption. Mr. Jagdeo made a point that, look, there have been some outputs in relation to corruptibility among foreign investors. Let's have an investigation. Essentially, it's not something that you can fault. He may have his reasons, but I don't see the question of why does he have to be afraid in calling for investigation.
And it's interesting you raised that point there, Freddie, about the bank, because I had a recent run in. I have all my bank accounts.
Well, that's Article 13 and them to go and pick it the bank for you.
I don't know why you're asking me to do that. Freddie,
Ask them to
I'm
go
going to
and
ask
pick
you
it.
to send an email to them.
I will
But-
pick it. I will
Huh?
pick it the bank for them. Just tell me when you're going to pick it. I am not like those civil society group that want publicity. I am old. You look at my gray hair. I've been around a long time. I don't need that publicity.
It's interesting.
If Article 30
I want to
human
tell you
rights
about a
one-
banking situation that happened recently. And because all these things, it teaches us that we should not be willing to accept, and no matter, no part of this world, we becoming citizens that everybody's running here. And if you start taking everything that everybody dishes out on you, we're going to become a set of citizens or people who are, who how you say it, Freddie? We're like jokers at the end of the day because anybody could
Sheep,
walk.
sycophants.
Right. Why should we do that?
Dead people.
We have bright people, Freddie. I've been saying this over and over. We have people who have become so much more resilient because of the exposure. Not only because
You're a
of
good
of,
journalist.
I'm not sure
You
about
are.
that.
No, you are.
You have internet that's come into play. You have families who live abroad, people talking to each other. At the click of a button, you can know what is going on in Iceland, in Timbuktu. So I want to say to you that people are not going to take any nonsense anymore. I have a business that I just started, and the first person to call me was the bank that I was not dealing with. And that bank came on. I called my bank and I says to my bank, what happened? The other bank coming on. Oh, let us think. I had to call them 2, 3 times. What's happening? We're going to come on to you when we're ready. It's a dismissive attitude that I find very unacceptable in a modern country where things are happening. And if I'm not happy with you, I just take my business elsewhere. I've been thinking about that. I've been thinking about it. Maybe I wake up next week and say, look, and I did indicate that to the bank manager who called. I said, I'm not too happy. I have what as a customer, the other bank. And all the other people are coming on board, but they're not on because they're not interested. And they have declared over 2, 3 billion. I mean, they could take their business wherever it is. But the point is, I also have a right not to take the nonsense that they're dishing out to me. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is the attitude of this country. Recently, Freddie, and I would love to hear your input in this. I was talking to a friend of mine, and he says, what would it take for this country to take the next level? Meaning that if the money is not filtering down, well, that's another whole discussion. If the oil money is not filtering down, what does it take for the people to really step up to the game? You're the big game now, one of the biggest producers in the world. Well, it's very, very simple. We have to change our attitude. And the attitude is not at 5 o'clock you down tools and say, let us go home. You got to start thinking, how do I get another job? How could I bring in another form of income? You go to New York, you go to any other place, 2, 3 jobs, you jump on 3 trains, you jump on 2 buses, and you got to get there, and you got to get there on time. In Guyana, you come to work 9 o'clock. I had a couple of people working me every Monday morning. They're absent. When you call them, I'm not feeling well. And when you find out that they're working elsewhere or they drank the day before, that kind of attitude ain't going to cut it. It could be that this government is not pushing hard enough, but it could also be we need to take it to the next level. Freddie, what does it take to bring this country to the next level?
Well,
Is
I
it
don't-
an attitude change?
I don't know why my phone is ringing. I have to turn it off. I don't know why you. Well, I take that back. I can understand the way you feel about people and how they work. But it's not just those sections of society. They are the society in general has produced a kind of mentality over the past 2, 3 years that's inexplicable. Look, we had 70 years of struggling to make something out of this country. And then we discovered oil. And have you seen the focus on the oil and where it's coming from? This criticism of the oil industry, it's coming from people not in Sophia, not in Port Morant. It's coming from educated people. And the level of articulation is so disturbing. Dr. Janet Bulkan works in the forestry department of a foreign university, not in our own university where she's needed, but in British Columbia. And she appeared in front of a body of the OAS, asking for oil exploration to stop here. She got people writing Exxon, people that never consulted you or me. I've seen widespread publicity given to a lawyer that I've never heard about, don't know about, and she's asking the Exxon head for an explanation of certain things. And so when I read this thing, front page in the Star Book and and the Cultural News, and I said, who is this lady? Leonard, I never heard about her. I don't know what work she's doing. All I heard that she's listed as a lawyer, and she's demanding the Exxon head provide her with certain answers. Surely that's a society where these kinds of misdirections
Freddie,
should not be tolerated.
Could it not be also looked at that's our democratic right as a Guyanese to ask those questions?
Well, if it's our democratic right to ask that question, you have raised ants nest there, and we're going to end up.
Let's talk about it.
We're going to end up debating.
My former boss, Glenn Lal, is involved with that.
No,
you could ask about that.
No, Glenn Lal.
Is that his democratic right?
Glenn Lal is a national figure who has contributed immensely to this country with his newspaper and with the contents of his newspaper. So he's become a voice, and he's become a voice with some credible source of acceptance. But when you have political parties that have participated in elections in this country, they've existed 15 years. What kind of media we have when a lady, my job has been to study this country. So I know who Glenn Lal is, I know who Leonard Gildarie is, I know who Sanjeev Dattadin is, I know who Dr. Karpen is. The leading heart surgeon, Gildarie, the leading journalist. I know those people. That's my job to. But when the newspaper could give front page coverage to someone who spent not even a week doing things that the nation knows about, then that's our democratic right. But it tells you something about the direction the society is going into. It certainly tells you that. And I would think persons' democratic rights have to be respected. I have nothing but respect for the person who goes and hold a placard. I mean, with nothing but respect for the right. But when it comes to psychological and sociological respect, no, I don't. Because that person cannot speak for me. I think Glenn Lal has support in this country. I think the Bar Association has support. I think a parliamentarian like Sanjeev Dattadin has support. I think there's certain doctors who've been around 15 years. When they open their mouth to speak, they have support. But don't tell me a person is going to get widespread coverage demanding answers from Exxon head. Well then, if you allow that to happen, I am going to write the GBTI head, I am going to write the Georgetown Hospital head, and I'm going to ask for information, say you got to give me this information.
Well, me being the devil's advocate here, Freddie Kissoon, if I'm to say to you, and I happen to have been involved with the Kite News and in some of the decision making process and part of those editorial, and I don't want to get too much in there. There was a lack of people, and I'm not saying that I endorse what Glenn Lyle is saying. I'm not saying I endorse anybody. Period. All I'm just talking is from the how you say it, the practical side of things, in that it's very difficult to get people to talk on issues that concern Guyana. Now, I understand what you're saying there, in that you ain't gonna. She doesn't probably don't have the credibility in that area there, because she is on the forestry side. But I'm also saying to you, when you don't have a whole bunch of people talking, who do you turn to ask? It doesn't justify what that you're asking them, but you're also finding a place that you believe that something is wrong. You believe the oil deal is bad. You also believe that there's nobody else in Guyana. Who do you ask for those things?
No, well, you have some, your starting point is a bit ill-shaped. Um, if you cannot get justice from the police, you should not go to a vigilante. So the police
And I take
take
that.
week.
Right.
Right. Now, if a person is not an oil or a petroleum expert, now, I'll give you a name that I've been seeing her all the time. I went to UG as a student with a woman named Vanda Razdik. Vanda Razdik. Or
Yeah, I heard the name.
Right.
Yes.
And she was doing literature, I was doing history. I don't know for the past 40 years what she has gone into. I don't know if it's ecology, economics. But when people speak like that about the oil industry, you cannot tell me because there aren't people coming forward and speaking that we must look to them. We must look to people because they provide us with a body of knowledge that guides us in life. I want to speak, I want to listen to a foreign policy expert that tells me how states in the world operate. But I'm not going to listen to a botanist who's supporting the Russian invasion of Ukraine. I am not going to listen to a botanist who is criticizing the Russian invasion. I want to listen to people who understand and have written on what is war, how war is justified, how war is not justified. So your question that in a vacuum of people not coming forward, must we listen to charlatans or people who are not relevantly educated?
Thank you very much for that, Freddie. And it's always good. And that was a question that I've always been asking myself. How do you, in the absence of people fighting, you caught in that as a reporter when I was there, you caught with people fighting, and then you used to call politicians, and you used to ask them. I call an official at the bank again and politicians on issues, and they would say can't talk about it. Even politicians would say I don't want to talk to you on the record. Now some things you can't talk on the record, but some issues which glaringly, like the American system, you could talk about abortion and gun rights and so on, and politicians would gladly jump on the bandwagon and say, let's talk about it. In Guyana, you see more times than not, hey, I'm not touching that. And that is an issue, but I take what you say there, Freddie. Freddie, I saw the Attorney General and Anandlal talk about charges for the miscreants. Those are the people on the East Coast, allegedly, that they have their eyes. A lot of videos would have surfaced on who were committing what. People pushing cards with people, stuff. How could we go forward with it? Do you believe that there should be widespread charges? Should we change our laws because somebody whose life has been damaged, who's been traumatized by something that happened, what do you charge them with? Do you charge them with simple larceny, robbery, aggravation? Should you change it up that we should not have a replay, that you put some more stiffer penalties?
Well, my first reaction is to the penetration of hypocrisy in this society. A parliamentarian, sits across the aisle in the house and tell a woman, you need a dildo. And there has been a flood of criticism calling for him to resign. He didn't show a bowl of soup on the woman. He didn't show the thing in her face like, what happened to me? And the woman sat down across the aisle and probably ignored him. These people are poor people selling at the vendors. And a bunch of people invaded their livelihood and destroyed it. Look, people got charged. You have the yellow vest protests in France against Macron last year or year before the last. You have the Capitol Hill riots. People assault the laws by violently attacking people. They have to be called to justice. You're going to dismiss a clerk who steal 5,000 in the ministry. You're going to charge a guy who stole a bicycle. And you got people that have destroyed buses, cars, burned people's stalls, and they're supposed to what is the role of the state? The role of the state is to protect two things: the physical integrity of the land and the physical safety of the citizens. And if you could be selling your eggs and somebody come and mash up your 5,000 eggs, beat you up, and that person just goes like that? No, I think you call them miscreants. I call them vicious people who should be charged. People are being charged every day for running a red light. Go read the code. People are being charged, given ticket for speeding. And you break up a man's minibus during his livelihood, and you just get a slap on your wrist. Well, then the society has deteriorated to the extent.
But that's what the law says. What do
state.
you charge them with? You can't charge them with murder. It was a murder.
You could charge them with committal of a violent act. When you attack a person violently, it's called violent assault.
I want to bring you to another issue that somebody raised with me, and it says, Mr. Gildarie and Freddie, please raise this issue here. A few months back, I think it's less than a year, the government would have announced help for persons who would have suffered. These are farmers in the Berbice area, especially. Farmers who are suffering from flooding. And the person said, Mr. Gildarie, if you know how many persons came from overseas, they walk in the land, they're not living here, but they're landlord in the land, and they rent it out to people, and they come back here. And our people here, yes, you heard me right, our people here have been facilitating the giving out of millions of dollars. And some of them, while the ministry would have gone on record and said they did investigation, you go to Blackbush Polo, Mr. Minister, and I know Minister Zulfi is a very serious guy. Go in there and you got to talk to those people. And they sit with you and said, you know that man there, Freddie Kissoon, you see that man there, Gildarie, collected 500,000. He collected that. He's not living here. And then the farmers who rented his land also got some money. When I talked to Freddie at the beginning here about our regulatory bodies, we got to be very serious because every single day, and I want to say it here, I haven't spoken to Freddie here as yet about this, but I'm thinking in my head, if there's anybody out there that knows anybody who's in public office and you know that they're committing any fraud and you know they're stealing government funds, I think that the president of Guyana and his cabinet, President Irfanali, and Vice President Barjagdeo, they'd be more than happy to know which one of the officers are involved in the illegal business. Because here you have it. Barjagdeo backs calls for Vice Claims Probe. They're not afraid. He says nothing's wrong with what I did. So if you know anybody, send it to Gildarie, send it to Critic, or send it to Freddie. You know how to get hold of us. 614-5927. That's Freddie. And 682-1256, that's Gildarie. Let us know. You want to upturn things on the head, we got to start taking the bull by the horns and take it to the next level. Freddie, a local playing field, a level playing field rather, we would have seen recently, and the last time I wish that we had some time to expound on it, because this thing is going to rear its head more than ever. We had the passage of laws into this country. The government made it a priority to introduce the local content laws, and it says how much percentage of a company, if you want to do business with Ghana, you're a foreign company, you come in, you got to make sure in the oil industry you give more than 51%, at least 51% to our locals for it to happen. Freddie, my question, and I would love to hear your thoughts on this. Do you believe that our locals are ready to take on seems to be some major opportunities? You think they're ready psychologically and everything else?
But one of the problems I have with your questions is if I keep answering your questions, what happened to the issues I have on my mind?
Thank you.
So you are quite free to give your views on the local content law. But as you speak on that, the thing that came into my mind is a psychological deterioration in Guyanese society that borders on almost borders on evil. I grew up in an era where you were proud to be black, proud to be dark skinned, and you were proud to claim what your society produced. I go to some of the supermarkets and the things that I see Guyanese buy, from working people to lower middle class to higher middle class, it's evil. You know, I live across the road to Massey Supermarket. Massey Supermarket has a wide variety of fruits. And do you know what is a popular patronized fruit at Massey? By dark-skinned Guyanese like me, and not wealthy people. A stupid fruit from New Zealand named kiwi. A terrible, horrible tasting fruit. And I have seen Indian, African, mixed race Guyanese. No fancy $40 million car they're driving. And those people would buy kiwi. You should see the foreign fruits. Let me tell you something. This thing literally breaks my heart as a product of the 70s under Burnham and Jagan, and how you had Afro hairstyle and people were proud to be Hindus and Muslims and third world. What you talk about local content, the very people who have fought the government to have the local content legislation, those people buy foreign fish. Listen, the era of buying local things is dying. And I just feel sorry for people like the Bihari group of companies. Those people could have stayed in New York and lived quite happily with their investment in New York. They came down here, they're making pasta, they're making curry, they're making ice cream. Banks DIH has produced local biscuit. Banks DIH produce ice cream. Banks DIH produce beverage. I see up to today somebody, I'm telling you, I'm in the supermarket every day, a man, just looking at him, no big upper middle class
But
man,
Freddie, isn't
buying
that
box juice.
But Freddie, isn't that a matter of choice? I mean, if somebody, my daughter likes dragon fruit, it doesn't mean that she doesn't like the other fruit. If people are going for it, does it mean that they don't prefer the locals, or it just means that I don't know how to read into that.
Well, you're reading into it wrongly, and
Go
you're
ahead.
not reading
Let me
into
hear
it
you.
philosophically. And you have to read into it psychologically. The psychological part of people, according to Seketure, well, he used to be named Stokely Carmichael. But any anti-colonial theorist will tell you the danger with a human being is when your psychology is not your own. That's the danger with a human being. You know what people do when they don't have a psychology? They go and they buy brand name things that worth 10,000 times more than something that they can ill afford. Now, it's not a question of the choice. Sometimes people don't have choice, and that choice they take away from themselves by not having a psychology.
I think what
That's
Freddie
what
is
they
saying there
do.
is that we got to be very smart as a people as we go forward. And I think the question initially that I asked him for the local content, as a people, we got to start being very much aware of what are some of the opportunities. Do not sit on your hands. Start getting to know about the country. The government is putting it, but you can't expect the government to do everything. I'm not here endorsing government, and I'm sure I believe Freddie has made it very clear he's not part of any organization. But we have
I
to
am not
start.
being paid by the government or any government. I haven't spoken to, have I spoken to any minister the past 5, 6, 7 years that are presently in the, I haven't spoken to Mr. Jack Dio, I would think more than 30 years ago. That's the truth.
You want us to invite him here? Come
I
to
have
invite
no
him.
problem with nobody being, I think we should invite on this program the following people.
Let me hear you.
David Hines.
Sure. You want to take on David Hines?
Takuma Ogunse.
Yes.
I apologize to the viewers. And please don't see me as a chauvinist. I would take on anyone because I believe in me and I know what is inside my heart. And I'm going to deliver what is inside my heart. And I'm going to deliver what is inside my analytical mind that I was trained to deliver. So David Hines wants to come here. I am going to tell him he was being racist by saying black people shouldn't buy black pudding from an Indian woman. I am going to tell David Hines he is a downright fascist to say he owning Burnham. He claiming Burnham. Burnham was a fascist who ordered the assassination of Rodney. So I would, if I'm willing to take on David Hines, anyone come here, ones that don't physically assault me, I'm going to take them on. I believe I have the capacity to argue my case.
And there you have it. He's going to take on David Hines, and we are
Well,
going to
I
be.
was giving a list of people that we should invite here. When you
We're going
cut
to be
me,
invited. We're going to be inviting a lot of other folks, people who are experts. I've already reached out to the Minister of Labour, Joseph Hamilton, and he is very happy. He says he's going to be here next week to talk about what is happening in the labour scenes. We have many complaints about some foreigners over here and how they're treating our locals and how some of the nonsense that they're doing and how they're hiding the pays, one pay against expatriate and so on and what's happening there. So we are going to be inviting those folks, and there's a lot of things. I could tell you at the Labour Ministry a couple of months back, Freddie, this is what is going to shock you. We have allowed ourselves as a country to reach a stage where we had three Labour officers, I think it was, or two, but two Labour officers for the whole of Region 4, to monitor Region 4, to go in to see whether you have any breaches in your workplace. About 2 or so, we have allowed ourselves to that. There's been some moves over the years, within the last couple of years or so, to start beefing up that, but you had to get people trained in the labor and other regulations, and that's been taking some time. But I've been told that these are things that are very close to my heart, and if we want to start protecting our people, we have got to educate them. I recently saw on the screens of these bank there, Gau taken a very proactive role. They've started advertising. If you don't know the laws, you're supposed to get so many days off. I think it was 2 days off per month. I got to check it back. But you're entitled to days off in the month that you could stay home and don't have to give anybody any kind of excuses there. But these are the kind of things that we need to talk about. Freddie,
well, let me tell you who I plan to invite on the program. I'm sure I don't have any problem with the most controversial people coming. But I want to give some publicity to people who are our unsung heroes. I used to cut keys for my car, for my house. And there was this little guy who started as an assistant to Guyana's most famous key cutting place called J. Duarte in Comina Street. And this little guy was an assistant. And today that guy has his own business His name is Kwame, and his business is next to Oasis Cafe. Those are people who started from scratch, and they don't get the publicity. They don't get the publicity that they should get. And that is my role. Now, there's a bakery in Boxing named Benjamin Bakery. Adrian started as a little helper in a bakery. And then the baker shop he worked for used to deliver pastries at my mother-in-law's supermarket. And my mother-in-law used to tell this guy, it's time you work yourself up. You know, Benjamin Bakery is one of the largest single-owned bakery in the entire Guyana. I'm leaving aside Banks that usually makes bread and bake well. Adrian has done well, and he gives bursar to students who do good at the common entrance. Those are people, my part in this program should expose the Guyanese. They are the unsung hero. And I'm going to have Kwame sit down here and talk about his key business and how he started from small. I'm going to ask Adrian to come from Buxton and talk about how, from a little assistant baker, he became what he is in Buxton. So, sure, we could have David Hines, we could have the ministers, but I think they are unsung heroes that this program should
Freddie,
and I will do that.
There's one thing that I think we got to have a conversation about, and I know we're talking a lot of stuff here, but it's been bothering me for the last couple of months. We have, since about 3-4 years now, we've seen an large influx of Guyanese, Venezuelans, Cubans, Haitians, and from all over the place, Trinidadians here too. And people come in here for various reasons, either because of the economic situation there or because there's an opening of business opportunities here. I want to ask if this is immigration going to become a major problem for Guyana, because based on the last set of numbers that I would have had, and this like about 2 years back, we had about 60,000 plus Venezuelans in Guyana. I know that there's thousands of them in Region 1. You could go into almost all the Chinese shop. I live in Diamond. And there are supermarkets. There are many Venezuelans working there, Venezuelan young girls. You go into Regent Street, a lot of them speaking Spanish, and it amazes you how quickly, every time you go back, it's changed significantly. Elections are coming up back in 2025. How do we deal with the issues of immigration? And if you stay in here, I think the laws are very clear. If you're here 5 years, I think you could probably have some facilities there.
I want to say I reject everything you have just said.
I'm not putting together an argument, I'm asking.
I'm giving you my thought. I don't like the way you made the presentation. I was uneasy about it. And I think the last person in the world that should talk about immigrants coming to Guyana is a Guyanese. Mm-hmm. They are a bunch of Guyanese refugees, Guyanese
Freddie,
beggars,
don't get me wrong. I'm not
Guyanese
saying
mendicants all over this world.
We're not saying we should not, but how do you deal with it?
People who have invaded the sanctity of other countries. There's nothing to deal with. Let them come. How is the country? Why do you have to deal with immigration? All of us have families in US. Why the US don't send us back? I am saying I'm not answering the question because it's not a question for me.
What is not a question?
People
we have 60,000, 80,000 immigrants in this country. It's not a question.
1 out of every 5 New Yorker in the capital of New York is a Guyanese.
I'm not saying it's a bad thing,
What are they doing there?
Freddie, I'm not saying it's a bad thing.
Gildarie, 1 out of every 5 residents of the capital of New York is a Guyanese. Why are you talking about 60,000?
Hold on. Freddie.
Let them come.
You're not listening to what I'm saying. I'm saying there's a situation here.
I don't like what you're saying.
Why should we not deal with it? 80,000.
It's nothing to deal with.
Why?
Why is it an issue?
Are you going to ask me why I'm asking you that?
Why I am saying I don't want to discuss that because it philosophically grates my nerves. about immigrants coming here to make a living.
Okay,
When we
Gildarie is
have
going
more
to
than
discuss that.
when we have more than 1 million
Gildarie is
people.
going to discuss that. Let me tell you the
Guys
reason.
running all over the place. They're in Iceland. They're in Syria.
There is
They're in
nothing wrong with
Afghanistan.
having a discussion. It is 80,000.
There is no. That is not an issue for me. I don't want to
I'm not
discuss
saying
it.
it's. Listen, Freddie, I'm not saying it's
I do-
illegal.
I feel uncomfortable discussing people coming to my country to make a living. I feel uncomfortable, and as a citizen, I welcome them.
It has an
Period.
impact on,
Period.
if you don't know how many immigrants are here, it has an impact on your medical situation.
That's
on
not
their
what
health.
you asked. That's
No,
not
I'm
what the
saying
question
you, there's
asked me.
80,000 people
Well, we
here.
should provide them with medical
No, I'm
assistance.
not asking that. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, how do you deal with it? This I'm asking.
How do you deal with what? How do the other countries deal with us going to their country?
But
Why
this
don't
one
you
I
talk
don't
about
know.
that first?
I'm not
Why
asking
don't you
that.
clean your own house first? What with Guyanese all over the place? They're illegal. A prime minister named-
We having a conversation here in
Yeah.
which I'm
Yeah.
saying to you, there's a situation on the ground that come 2025, you have 80,000 persons here. I'm just calling a figure at the top of my head. I don't know, it could be more. There is going to be an issue that has to do with voters' rights, maybe.
I don't know that.
passport.
You saying that? I
I'm
don't know
asking,
that.
I don't know, I need to,
I
you to
don't.
educate
No,
me.
you're not saying if there's going to be an issue. You're saying there's going to be an issue.
Well,
Guyanese vote in U.S. elections. Why can't the people vote in our elections?
so you take
What
it
is
up.
your problem with these people?
I don't have an issue, Freddie. This you
Well, why
missing the
you
point.
raising it?
Why am I raising it?
Yeah, why you
There's
raising-
80,000 plus people. Why is it not
You
an
know
issue?
there are 80,000 plus people here?
I'm using
and that's
the
an
figures
issue in
of-
a country that is 83,000 square miles?
Oh my goodness. Freddie, whether you like it or not, there's 80,000 people here.
What is wrong with 80,000 people?
I'm not saying
being
there's
here?
anything wrong,
So
but
why you mentioning
okay,
it?
if you don't know the number of people that's in your country, if they're not regularized. you
How
don't-
many immigrants here? Do you know the numbers? Can you get that from immigration in the next program? on
I'm going to
Friday?
tell you
We can
what the
talk about
former
it.
minister of citizenship, I'm not sure if there's a minister of citizenship now, by the name of Winston Felix, would have said
The infamous
to a press,
police commissioner?
Yes. I'm not sure what infamous, but
The
he would have
infamous
had
police
a press
commissioner.
conference pretty soon. He would have had a press conference in which they were discussing the influx of Venezuelan. I remembered because
Are
I
you
was
taking
there.
your cue from him?
I'm not taking a cue.
So
I'm
why
just
you
saying
mentioning him?
in
Why are you
2025,
mentioning him?
I'm bringing a point to you. You asked me where I got the information from. I'm telling you where the
Okay,
information
okay.
come from.
From
Oh my
Felix.
goodness.
And you suppose that information that came from Felix?
I'm not supporting or
Felix
anything.
had
I'm
pe-
not back and forth with anything.
The
Freddie Kissoon.
immigration of which Felix was had jurisdiction over. I'm not saying Felix, but I know immigration and the police and what have you said people came to vote, and there are people overseas who have voted.
Guyana
and the
has
people were living in
taken-
Guyana.
Guyana's
so
taken
why
a
you why you
decision.
quoting
Okay, okay.
Felix?
Because you asked me where I got the information from.
And you got it from
He
Felix?
was the minister of
Okay.
citizenship,
And
and
you're
he
happy
says,
with the information you got from Felix?
Freddie, he was the minister at the time, and Felix says that.
Okay, okay.
Whether I like it or not,
Okay.
he was the minister, and he
Okay.
gave that information.
Well, I'm telling you, I would not accept those information.
So
That
you're
is what it
saying
is.
that there's no immigrants here? What are you saying?
I am saying quite unambiguously, I'm saying with pellucid inflexibility, I couldn't be bothered with any fallout of immigrants coming here once they behave. Under the law,
No,
they don't want
Freddie,
people,
you're missing the
let them
point,
come.
Freddie. Freddie,
What's
you're
the
missing
point
the
I'm
point.
missing?
All
What's
right,
the point
are you
I'm
gonna
missing?
are you gonna ease and give me a thing?
Yeah. Let me
Thank
hear
you
the
very
point I'm
much.
missing.
Thank you very much.
Let me hear the point I'm missing.
You have 80,000 persons coming. Does a Guyanese?
That's the
do you
fifth
know?
time you say 80,000.
I'm using a
Right,
figure.
right,
You have to use a
right,
base figure.
right.
Does the Guyanese know what kind of impact the Minister of Health, the Ministry of Health would have spoken about this issue? Our hospitals, the Georgetown Public Hospital and the East Bank, if you go up there, it is having a toll on that. If you don't have the figures that is going to allow you to plan on your way forward, how much money do you put in the budget this year because you have 50,000 extra people in the medical institutions? That's just one instance. Now, if you go to the Americas, or in America, any other country, there's an administrative cost to process people. You just don't take it and the state take it. Of course, the state could subsidize those costs. If you got to go to the American embassy right now, start to plus $1,000 that you have to pay for a visa. I'm not saying for us to do that. I'm just saying, do we know how we're handling the situation? I ask you that in that vein.
I was uncomfortable at the way you initially put it over. I'm still uncomfortable because somehow I can detect in the back of your mind there is uneasiness about immigration. I have no uneasiness about immigration. I welcome immigrants. You seem to now shift in the direction that, look, we have a country here to look after. And if you have this influx of immigrants, it puts a strain on the health system, etc. If it puts a strain on the health system, I would hope we can endure it and the health system could provide for those souls who are coming here to make a living. And we should provide for them because limitless Guyanese souls have left this country.
I'm not
and
arguing
have
that.
No, okay. Well,
I'm talking from an administrative perspective, Freddie
that doesn't
Kissoon.
concern me. Let the administration.
But you are the analyst.
Let the well, I'm analyzing now.
Analyzing is none of your business.
But
It's
here,
not
no,
an
no.
issue.
I'm analyzing it for you now. My analysis is that we should welcome the people, and we would hope that our budget allows for them to be taken care of medically and for not to be abused.
No, but
What more do
you as a
want me to say?
Guyanese, you don't want to know who's coming
I'm
into
not
your
a
country.
Guyanese.
You're not a Guyanese.
I'm a human being who
Well,
care for people.
I can't speak on
I'm a
behalf of
human
Freddie
being who care
Kissoon,
for
and,
people.
and it's interesting
I'm
that
Guyanese.
we could
Secondly,
agree to
you should
disagree.
ask me who I am
we could
first.
agree to disagree, and it's interesting. I'm being told at this program time, but this is interesting.
You could ask me what I am first. I'm first
As a
a human
Guyanese,
being. I'm second a
I,
Guyanese.
Leonard Gildarie, I'm interested to know how we plan in our country, whether it is that how many people, how many persons are coming in. I don't have an issue with them coming in because we've gone, and Freddie rightfully said, we have gone all over this world. We've made a mark. We have very bright people who've gone all the way up the ladder in different countries. I have friends in St. Martin who's probably one of the richest guys there. And we have seen them all over the United States and Canada. We bring in people into our country. I'm not saying for us to put up roadblocks. I'm just saying the government has taken some decision from a humanitarian perspective that we will accommodate them. But should we not be able to analyze what is happening? What are some of the impacts? We should be able to do that. Freddie, I'm being advised that you have like about a minute to wrap up. Let's go. It has been interesting. I enjoy your company.
Well, I want to shift the focus and speak sometimes, well, not sometimes, but all the time, on some of the things that are on my mind. I'm glad you raised that immigration thing because I'm an unashamed, inflexible supporter as a Guyanese of immigrants coming here.
I agree with that, too. I fully agree with
There's
that.
no question about it. My relatives, your relatives, and the relatives of every single Guyanese have left this place and burdened other countries. Maybe we should deport those million Guyanese that are outside there because they're a burden to other people's medical system. Anyway, to be more serious, I didn't like the tone of it because I support immigrants coming to
I
this
support
place.
that too, but I also support that I should know what is happening in my country.
Well, you have a government. They should know how to provide for the people.
Yeah, but you cannot allow the government alone to do their work. I
You
told a very senior government.
You want to provide medical comfort to the Venezuelans?
No. But if you're paying taxes, Freddie, do you pay taxes?
If I pay taxes?
Yes, sir.
What's the relevance of that? I'm not in a court of law to
If
answer
I
yes
pay
or no.
taxes for you, should I take that as being fair to me?
Don't say that. Don't say that. No, don't say that. You're going into a wrong direction.
Gentlemen,
Don't say that.
ladies and gentlemen, it is program time. It's been very interesting. We could agree to disagree, and this is what the show is all about, the Freddie Gildarie Show. I have my opinion, and Freddie certainly does have his opinion. And I love my brother Freddie. Institutional knowledge, I probably would not be able to win him in an argument. But guess what? I could be able to stand my own because I'm going to voice my opinion, and that's what this country is all about. Good night, wherever you join us from. Have a pleasant night until Friday.